pastor here at Nexus at Angus Church, and I would like to share my story with you. So I was not raised, my family, my mom and I went to church when I was started coming here to Angus whenever I was in 8th grade, I believe. I've pretty much attended my whole life. I moved away for a couple years, but I came back home. I accepted Jesus whenever I was in probably 9th grade here at Angus. Someone in the youth group actually helped me receive Christ during a youth event. And I've just kind of didn't have a terrible home life. I had, just normal. My mom and I came to church every Sunday. My dad didn't really come with us a whole lot. He came when I got baptized and when I got married, and that was about it. But so anyway, I moved off, found my husband, had a couple kids, moved back home, and we didn't really make church necessarily a priority when my kids were younger. It was probably a few years after the fact. My mom always brought my kids to church every weekend that she would keep them from time to time, and so she would bring them to church and they would come to church with her. And basically, if my kids asked me if we were coming to church, then we would come to church. But if they didn't ask, or we would sometimes say, I don't know, we'll see if we get up in time in the morning to go to church, and then we would maybe go or not go. But it was, my husband got hurt in 2007, December 2007, and he developed blood clots, and we went to the hospital and they did some tests, told us what was going on, and the doctor said that he needed to do an emergency procedure. But the risk with that emergency procedure was that he may or may not come out of that procedure with his leg. So the doctor said that it was a 50-50 chance that they would have to amputate his leg from the knee down at the time. And so we were pretty scared. My husband told me to call the kids, get them to the hospital. He wanted to see them before he went in. So that's what we did. And then we went through a series of tests. After that procedure, the doctor came out, he explained everything to me, what was going on, and he said he did not amputate the leg because he had a little glimpse of hope that he was going to be able to break that blood clot up. So my husband spent the next 7 days in ICU, and they did procedure after procedure after procedure. He had, I think, 6 of those same procedures in the course of those 7 days, and we went home from the hospital, and he actually did not lose his leg. So the doctor said, we'll just continue to manage it therapeutically, and we'll see what happens, and we'll just keep a close eye on it. Of course, when he was in the hospital, they put a stent in his leg to try to keep that blood flow going as much as they could. So over the course of years, we just have managed it with medication and constantly doing tests and making sure that the blood flow is going correctly, like it should flow through there. And but what I really want to talk about is that next year, after he got out of the hospital, he was home, I think, not even a week, probably 5 or 6 days he was home from the hospital, and I found out that I was pregnant with my youngest son. So it was a little bit of a trying time for our family. My husband was no longer able to work. I did not work at the time. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was pregnant. So wasn't sure what we were going to do or how we were going to make things work, but we did it with the support of our family and friends and our church family. Over that course of time, we had a lot of challenges medically, financially, it was a lot of challenges. But because at that time is when I personally grew closer to God, and I relied on him more and more. I remember sitting in the hospital, not knowing that I was pregnant yet. I was sitting in my husband's hospital room one night, and we were in ICU, and it was just me and him. He was knocked out. He was pretty much in medically induced coma for those 6 days. But it was just me and him and God. And I remember sitting there in the hospital and just thinking, what am I going to do? What is going to happen? And at that time, it was just me and him and our older 2 kids, Jacob and Morgan, and we weren't sure what was going to happen. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to keep our house, if we were going to be able to keep the bills going, or the food on the table, or whatever. We had to, at that moment, I had to fully put my trust in Jesus. And because of that and my church family, we were able to come out on the other side. And let me tell you, when I say that my church family helped me, I mean that my church family helped us. We, so that was in December of 2007 that happened. And so it was at the end of December, so it was already past Christmas. We had already gone through the holidays. But when you have small kids, Jacob and Morgan at the time, this was 11 years ago, 12 years ago. So Jacob and Morgan were really little. And so still big things are, Easter and Tooth Fairy and birthdays and, all of those little kid holidays. And I remember I was sitting at home, and there was a knock on the door, and I got up and I went and answered the door, but nobody was at the door. There was a basket, 2 baskets full of stuff sitting on my front door, and a card. And it was a card. It was not signed. All it said was, "Love your church family." Still to this day, 12 years later, I don't know who sent that card or those baskets, but it meant the world to my kids and to my husband and I. We were able to provide Easter baskets for our kids that year because of our church family. We had people that rallied around us and helped provide pay for our utilities and just all kinds of stuff that you take for granted on an everyday basis. I had a friend who, her church family rallied around us, and they took up a donation, and it wasn't even my church family, it was my friend's church family, but they knew someone was in need, and so they stepped up, and they gave us stuff that you wouldn't think about, like Clorox wipes and Windex and diaper wipes and diapers and just all this different stuff that you take for granted that you can go out and get. And whenever your family is in a financial burden, you don't know how you're going to get those things anymore. So that was a really trying time for us, and just that we weren't sure what the next steps were going to be, but because I had accepted Jesus when I was, like I had said earlier, it was a young age, well, junior high, but still, Jesus never left me. I may have wandered away from him, but he never left me, and he never forsaked me, and he was always there with me. And because of him, there was a way that was made. He made a way for us to be able to come out on that challenging time in our family's lives, that we were able to come out on the other side. And we didn't lose any. We always had food on our table. None of our utilities got shut off. We didn't lose our house, nothing. Everything was always provided for our family. And so I can't explain that any other way except for that God made a way, and he's the miracle worker, he's the way maker, he's the way that he always makes ways for you. When you can't see it, when you don't know how it's going to happen, he makes the way. So I just want to encourage you that no matter what you're going through at this time, if you're going through anything or not going through anything, or just step out in your faith and put your trust in Jesus. And if you want to know more about that, please comment below, and we will get in contact with you, and we would love to be able to sit down and talk to you and share a way that you can have that peace and you can have the calming in your life.